Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of my new podcast, Hiring and Inspiring, a show where I talk all things sales, recruitment, leadership, business, and pretty much everything in between. Now, today's guest, I've got an old friend and an ex-colleague, Mr. Owen Carrol. Now, I'm super excited to have a chat with Owen. We met actually out in Australia a few years back. When he was working for a little bit for BMS, stayed in touch. He's now back in the UK. He's worked a little bit in recruitment. He's now working in sales. I'm super excited to catch up with him. He's a great bloke, loads of energy, super funny guy, loads of great stories. Always enjoy having a chat to him. So I'm looking forward to hearing about his journey in the last few years, like what he's been up to, what he's been doing. And also learning from him as well, because he's a wise chap here and there. So, Owen, mate, welcome to the show. How are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Obviously, evening here, nine o'clock in the evening here. So had a busy day at work while you're just starting. But yeah, feeling good. Glad to be here.
I appreciate you coming on later tonight, mate. No, thanks a lot. So, mate, I was thinking about this. It was pretty much nearly 3 years ago that you around this sort of time that you were out in Australia, but had to flee the country and retreat back to the UK as the pandemic hit, and your time in Australia was cut short. And obviously, that was 3 years ago now. So, this is probably the first time I was really catching up since then. So, mate, what's been going on? How you been since you fled the country?
That was a funny story. Like I remember my friends being there. My friends from school. They were in Australia at that sort of time when the whole pandemic was kicking off, and I remember they rented like an Airbnb, and there was probably about four of us, and me and Dylan were there, and I remember being there. There was three: me, Dylan, Josh, and Ben, who are a few of my friends from school. And we're having drinks. We're sort of celebrating because we knew we'd all be sort of having to leave sooner or later.
Yeah.
And it must have been about 12 at night, and get a call from my old man saying, "Oh, Owen, you got a flight booked at 6 a.m." And I was like, I was so pissed. I was drunk, and I was like, oh my God. Right, okay. So I had to get a taxi back to where I was staying in North Sydney, pack all my stuff. Like I'm having beers at this time, packing all my stuff up, and then we headed straight to the airport. And as I say, you probably remember, I didn't even say goodbye to anyone. I was on that plane, and I was gone the next day. So it was it was good. Coming back during the pandemic, it was tough, I think, for everyone. Obviously, jobs wise, I had probably 3 months maybe. So that was what I came back March 2020. 3 months where I was dusting about a little bit, sort of seeing how everything played out, seeing what I wanted to do. Was there any chance to go back out to Australia, that sort of thing. And then obviously it started to get a lot worse. So I ended up just applying for jobs. Funny enough, I couldn't even get a job at Audi or Sainsbury's or anything like that. I got rejected from all of them. Got rejected from McDonald's as well.
Should laugh.
No, it's funny, man. I didn't know what was going. To be like rejected from McDonald's, it's you wonder what you're doing wrong in life. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But then luckily I managed to get like a customer service live chat role at an e-commerce company. So it's a bit like Shopify, but it's the UK version of Shopify. E-commerce platform. I dealt with any of the questions customers had. They could just hop on the phone to us, hop on the live chat. And I did that then for about a year and a half, year and 8 months. Like that was sort of during the whole pandemic. I had the idea of wanting to go into the army at that point as well. That was sort of something I was thinking of, but it was never like I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be in customer service. I always had the army there or sales, right? And I left Shopwired, and obviously dad's obviously, working in BMS as well, and I
Yeah.
was able to get an opportunity through BMS for a company called Vericode. I'm not sure if you heard of a
Okay.
company called Vericode before. Is that something you've come
Only
across?
because you work there, mate. To be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. So brief overview, Vericode is a SaaS, software as a service organization dealing with cybersecurity, so application security
Yeah.
specifically. So simple terms, it will scan developers' code as they're writing it for any vulnerabilities in the code and make
Yeah.
sure it's correct code basically to stop all of these threats. And I
Yeah. Nice.
specifically work in the BFSI, so banking, financial institutes, insurance, in the
Yeah.
UK and Ireland as a strategic BDR.
Yeah. Nice. And so, how long have you been doing that now?
Well, I'm coming into 10 months now, 10 months,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, how's it going then? So, getting out of the customer service role into the world of sales, into a SaaS company in a BDR role. How you finding it?
Yeah, it's stressful, but it's rewarding,
Yeah.
it's every day is stressful, I think recently I think, as you probably know, what I've found out is there's differences between working like an enterprise to a strategic BDR to a commercial BDR. If you're
Yeah.
strategic BDRs, it comes, if you get a no, I have a small amount of accounts. If you get a no from a certain organization, you can't just move on, because
Right. Yeah.
I like to think of it as one organization has probably got 15 other organizations
Yeah.
underneath it,
Yeah. Okay.
with the all of the other segments, so it's been tough, but I think one of the things that I'm starting to learn now is as you know, recruitment, sales, any type of sales is stressful. It's stressful, and
Yeah.
it comes with its stress, and because
Yeah.
it's a performance based role, right? But I think you can't. It's learning to deal with the stress in a way that you don't let it affect your outside
Yeah.
life, which is probably something I've been struggling with recently. But it's
Yeah.
I've noticed it. I've noticed it, and now I'm sort of
Yeah.
looking into researching online different ways to deal with stress, so you're not taking it out on the people around you.
Yeah. No, gotcha. What do you find stressful about the role then, in itself?
I think I love talking to people. I love speaking to people when you get the
Yeah.
chance. But I think it's that the opportunities come along. I think my mind has changed recently into a different way of thinking. I was looking, and it was stressing me out because I was constantly looking for opportunity. Right, no, there's no opportunity there. Let's go to this one. Is there an opportunity there? Let's go here. Constantly looking for opportunities, which is what I've
Yeah.
learned is in a strategic organization, they can't, you're never just going to go in and buy. You say, yeah, here, I do this, buy it
Yeah.
now. 1 month later, $2 million, it just
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. And I think I'm starting to try and think about this approach of, when I've got people on the phone now, I'm saying, hey, look, I'm not trying to get you to, buy anything now. If you want to go with that provider now, cool. But
Yeah.
just see what we can offer. Let's build a relationship between us. So in a year's
Yeah.
time, 2 years time, we've got that relationship that something
Yeah.
can happen,
Yeah. So it's sort of taking a more longer term approach.
Definitely, and that's
Yeah.
I think that's when I've now started to become a little bit less stressed, as I'm now starting to play the game. I was trying to cheat the
Yeah.
game before by just finding opportunities left, right, and center, but
Going
now
for those quick wins.
quick wins, which
Yeah.
is great because you might get 2 quick wins this month, and
Yeah.
you've hit your target or whatever. But then,
Yeah.
what pipeline have you got for next month? Nothing. So and then you're starting again.
Do you reckon that's something you picked up from maybe your time in recruitment? Because in recruitment, it is more transactional. It is more, shorter sales cycle. You can pick up the phone and win a bit of business on one call here and there. Whereas it sounds like what you're doing is, targeting the bigger organizations, longer sales cycles, more strategic stuff. Is that something you reckon you've picked up from your time in recruitment?
I don't know. I think, I was obviously doing some recruitment at the start, but I was obviously younger. I just left
Yeah.
school at 18, so I'd gone into recruitment. But I think there's actually a time when I was in Australia and I called up this company and said, "Hey, any vacancies?" They're like, "Yeah, we've got a vacancy actually. Yeah, here you go." And I was like, "Yeah, this is amazing. This is amazing." They sent me cupcakes. I don't know if you remember. They sent me
I do
cupcakes
remember,
and everything. Yeah,
I do remember. You were buzzing.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think now it's I think no one wakes up every day. No one wakes up and wants to buy application security, cyber security software. That's not
Right, yeah.
It's not I think it's changed to a need to have, these big finance organizations, you saw recently, The Guardian, Royal Mail, they've all been hacked cyberly. I think, I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you read, have you read much into those? Or?
I mean, it's happening a lot in Australia as well. So, it seems to be such a prevalent space. It's a good space for you to be in by the sound of things.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think the one at Royal Mail that happened here, they said they have the international, depots that print out all the international labels and stuff like that. And I think I read that this group hacked it so that instead of it printing out the customers' labels, it started printing out like ransomware notes saying like, you can have one file decrypted to see what we want. And you got to pay us. And it's just like things that you don't think that can be hacked, like a machine that prints out labels can be hacked. And now I'm seeing it in this open. You can bring it even down to some of the events that we've been to. They have F1 cars there. Because think about all the mechanics and things that sit on the side of the track, doing all the testing of the car and signaling the car and everything like that. If someone hacks that, well, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, not sure who you prefer, but hacks that, they can steer the car off the road, they can slam the brakes on the car just by doing it manually, and it's becoming more and more dangerous, especially with the living costs going up. People are getting desperate.
Yeah, I guess good sort of learning for you as well. Like you probably learn a lot about that particular market as well since you've been doing that role.
Yeah, you learn a lot, but you there's so much to learn constantly. You can't just take it in. I think I had a call the other day with a customer, and he said something, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about, and I was like, sort of change the topic onto the next thing and said, you'll find out. But it's all good and well, someone telling you something you don't know, but then it's right. Are you going to go and find out now what that thing is, or are you not going to go and find out? And that's where I think the difference goes into learning your knowledge. Is someone talks to you about frameworks, and I didn't know what it was, so now I'm going to go and find out what a framework is. That's just an example,
Yeah, nice. So I'm curious about this strategic approach. You mentioned there aren't a whole heap of accounts for you to go at. When you say, how do you go about getting into and winning a new client in those markets? Because it doesn't sound like it's a pure volume approach. It sounds like you've got to be quite strategic about it. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so I think it comes down to you have your top 10 focus accounts for your AEs, right? Let's just say they have those top 10 accounts, the ones that you want to go after. And you can, I think, I'll give you both sides. There's a strategic approach and there's also a volume approach. You don't want to be ignoring your other accounts just because these are your focused accounts that you want to get into this quarter, this fiscal year or whatever. So you need to come up with a process that will allow you to personalize your messaging for your focused accounts, but also maybe the less important people in the others, your chief information security officers, for instance, in my world, they're like one of the top dogs who you want to speak to. You don't really want to be sending them volume stuff. So developers and things like that, send those to your accounts that aren't your focused accounts. So at least they're getting information. They're going to hear about their code, and they might get a bit of value, even if you're not even trying to sell them and say, hey, I saw this article that was quite good for your world. And then you can focus doing your personalized messaging on your focused accounts, your top 10, and that's probably where you.
And is that just sort of positioning, in their mind as a buyer, Owen Carroll as a source of a source of value, a source of this guy can help me. Is that right? With those sort of personalized the emails and messages. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so it's changing. It's changing now from what I'm seeing. Some of these before you could, hey, Veracode. There's a Gartner Magic Quadrant which basically goes round. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it goes. I think they do it for different industries as well. But it basically is a organization that it ranks companies basically on 1 to 10 in a square, and you want to be as far on the top right as possible to be good, right? And Veracode have been the leader for 9 years in a row, right? As in that top right quadrant. Brilliant, yeah. And Veracode have been around for 16 years. It's quite a good story actually. The founder of Veracode actually went in front of I can't remember what it's called. Is it the Senate or something like that in America? And basically he went to the government, I'm pretty sure in America or whatever, that basically wanted to show how valuable cybersecurity is becoming, and they sort of like, right, we're not going to help with this. So he set out to create Veracode, right? Okay. So before you could say, hey, look, we're Veracode, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this for you, we can do this. But now it's becoming a very much like there's other competitors in the market now that are similar to Veracode. So it's becoming a more of a value approach. What value can we bring to your organization that other organizations can't? And that's the approach. You need to help that value approach, but also I think going back to being a strategic BDR, you need to just be someone that isn't trying to sell you. I'm not trying to hard sell you. I'm not trying to do that. If you want to go ahead with another competitor, that's fine. Just I'd love you to chance just to see Veracode, see what we can offer. And then if you decide it's not for you, no problem. You can go away with some synopsis, check marks or whatever, but at least we've shown you what value we can bring.
Yeah, gotcha. And are you, as a BDR, are you just booking meetings for the AEs? Or
so just booking meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just booking meetings.
Do you see your role as like, are you selling the product or are you selling the meeting as a BDR? What do you see your role as?
I would say selling the meeting. My AEs are very good. AEs, they've been in the sales world for many years. So I've got enough. They just ask me, just get me in front of someone. Get me in front of someone that I can speak to. That. Yeah, right. That's the thing. So sometimes that's where I think about it. It's just hey, look, I'd like, you don't have to buy anything from us, take, have the meeting, see what we can offer. And then that's where the more of a, seller.
That's where the magic really happens.
Yeah, exactly. It starts with me, but then obviously it goes to the AEs,
Yeah. And what about yourself, mate? Ambitions to progress to an AE?
Yeah, definitely. I think, but one of the things is that you don't want to progress too quick, you don't want to.
Sure, yeah.
You let's just say you're in a BDR role, you've seen some BDRs, go up to an AE after a year or whatever, but I think 2 years around that sort of mark is, I'd be content with. But I think you don't want to go to an AE as soon as you're ready. If okay, cool, I'm ready in a year and 6 months to be an AE, and I can be an AE, but I want to go in 2 years, so I'm past the point of being ready. So I'm super ready to be an AE now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I could be wrong here, mate, but I think as a BDR, SDR, like you're really honing your sales skills. You're really learning the craft right now. You want to spend as much time. You don't want to hold yourself back, but like you want to do as much learning as you can right now, because that will stand you in even better stead if you did progress to an AE or a more senior sales role. Is that something that resonates?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's sales. You've got to want to. Sales isn't a job that you can wake up, do your 9 to 5, go to bed, do your 9 to 5, go to bed, and you it sort of becomes your life. You've got to live and breathe it. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you'll be there lying in bed with your wife, your girlfriend, or whatever, or on your own, and you'll be like, how can I get that next meeting? Why didn't this person, accept my meeting? How can I change that? Constantly, it's a thought in your mind, but then that's where it plays into. You have to be able to control that as well, and that's something as a BDR. I'm obviously, I had some recruitment experience. But there's other my colleagues, one of my friends, he was an electrician before, and now he's into the BDR role, started the same time as me, and he's like, well, he hasn't dealt with stress, like being in a sales role, it's kind of it's dealing with that and learning, and that's one of the biggest things. But you've got to do your podcasts outside of work, that sort of thing. Definitely.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you find dealing and managing that? Because I've been doing work in sales recruitment 7 years now, and I still haven't mastered it. I still find myself, I'll be on a Saturday night out or something, and my mind flashes to work. I'm like, what am I doing? Enjoy your night, or things like that. And I still haven't figured it out. Any tips?
I think I definitely haven't figured it out. It can get you down. It can get you down, definitely. But I think one of the things that you've got to know, right? 10 o'clock at night, right? You're lying in bed, right? You know this person hasn't accepted your meeting. Realistically, what the fuck are you going to do about it at 10 o'clock at night? Nothing, right? You're not going to get up and drop him a phone call and tell him why be in bed. So you got to learn to just put it aside, in a sense, or you can never just get rid of stress or just put it aside, because it will bottle up eventually. It'll bottle up and it'll burst over, and you'll go nuts or you'll go crazy about it. But it's about putting it aside to a time when you can actually do something about it.
Yeah, detaching yourself from the outcome a little bit, and I think also a bit of perspective as well. So this is what, if you're sort of sitting around worrying about if that guy's going to turn up to the meeting or not when they haven't accepted, it's just stepping back and if they don't turn up, is it the end of the world? Big picture thinking, how much is that really going to affect my month or my year or just my life in general? They're the kind of things that, because I used to get super worked up about little things like that, and now I'm getting better. I haven't got it mastered, but I'm trying to think a little bit more like that.
Definitely,
mate. So I'm curious to talk about, actually, obviously, when we met out in Australia. I know it was a few years ago. You came out here. Just the story is it was January 2020. You came out with loads of hopes and dreams. You came to work for BMS in Australia. And obviously we've talked about how you had to go home, but I'm curious. Obviously, this is us catching up. How do you look back at how do you look back at that time? Because I know it was obviously I know you had a great time, but it was obviously a little bit short lived in the end.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. It was that was the time. Yeah, I came out on that plane to Australia. That was a crazy mad feeling. But I think you gotta. It's not like I was the only one in the world that came back. You know what I mean? Everyone came. Happened to everyone. Everyone lost their jobs. That sort of thing. So you got to look back and be appreciative of what you had. Did I want to stay out there for the rest of the year? Of course I did. Of course I did. But there's, again, it comes back into. I didn't have a choice, I came back, and then what, next week the airport's closed. You know what I mean? I was going to be there making no money, just couch surfing, staying at Matt's, which is obviously fine. But
I don't know if he would have had you for that long, mate, to be honest.
Was a year down the line. Oh, and are you actually going to fucking do anything with your life? Or are you just going to sit on my sofa all day?
Stay at his house by the beach. Don't blame you.
Oh, mate, that was nice, actually. But yeah, it's the lifestyle is crazy. It's crazy out there compared to the UK, as you well know. There was, I think you're getting up in the morning, you go for a run, it's hot,
Yeah.
after work. I remember multiple times. You probably remember me talking about it. There was an American guy that I was in my house. He was in my house with Chris Watts.
Yeah.
He's from Boston.
Okay.
And the amount of times that we'd both come back from work and like we'd go down to is it like Balmoral or
Balmoral Beach, yeah.
yeah, something like that. You could just take a coach down there and you literally they have the shark nets, so and you can just go swimming. You can and it's such here, what are you doing? Like hopping back playing PlayStation. You know what I mean?
I do know. So, because obviously before you had to go back, you did have a couple of months, right? You had a couple of months.
Yeah, January to March.
And how did you find it, like working for us out here?
I found it interesting. Because, I was 18, just got to Australia. Like, I was in Australia and I had money, but I didn't have a lot of time to spend it. And, so when I had the chance, I was trying to spend it. I was, when we'd like go out, I think, there was one story that it was like, it's funny. I hope it'd be funny when you probably hear it. Do you remember that morning when I was like, came in and I was sat next to you and I came in and I sat there and you're like, you're all right, mate? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then you're like, well, what'd you get up to last night? And I had a croissant as well on the side. And I was over as hell. And because I was trying to experience my life there as well, I remember must have been like a Wednesday night or something, and then like my friend was like woke me up at like 10 o'clock and was like, oh Owen, come on, we're going to this party, one of my friends has got a house party. And I was like, bro, I've literally got work in the morning, and the next thing you know, I'm at this house party, at like 2 in the morning. Got to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, So it was tough, but trying to get the best of both worlds,
I think looking back, like you had all the skills, you had all the ability to be, and you still do have to be successful in recruitment. But that time, it was just sort of wrong time, wrong place a little bit. Like you were just too. I'm 18 years old. I'm in Australia. I just want to enjoy myself. But then, like at the same time, I'm meant to be working. So when you were on, like you were doing a good job. But it was just, it was. I guess just probably some good lessons learned from you and just some good life experience.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. That was as you say, obviously, I put in the work when I was there working, but it was, but obviously, I did want to go out and do things,
And recruitment, you're working for BMS a little bit, and obviously, your dad's long time in recruitment. How do you look back at the industry and just, anything you learned from working in recruitment that you can maybe apply to your life or like even your role currently?
Yeah, it's tough. People in recruitment are doing well. Like, it's tough. Like, I found it like you gotta. It's a weird one. I think it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding.
Yeah.
It comes down into you want to help people. You want to help find their dream role and stuff like that, and helping candidates and calling candidates. It's a very rewarding part of it. But then obviously these companies don't want to pay you a fee all the time to do it, but even though you could probably hire them better talent than what they probably find. So I think the resilience definitely like helped me to do my job now, because Veracode, with obviously cybersecurity, as we spoke about, it is becoming more of a nice to have to a need to have. It's a need to have now, otherwise going back to what I said earlier, the Guardian got fined 17.5 million for their customers' data getting leaked or their employees' data getting leaked. So it's recruitment having it to be more of a nice to have if you've got the funds and stuff. It's it's very much more rewarding, but much more rewarding is a strong thing, but it's very resilient. You got to be resilient.
You take a lot of rejection in recruitment. I know because I've been doing it a million years, but do you sort of encounter the same amount of rejection in your current role, say?
I wouldn't say so, I wouldn't actually say you get
Yeah.
rejection, right? You get rejection, but I don't really get I don't know how when you say rejection, do you mean like angry rejection or just
Or
like
just
a
like, just a hard no, or just a really tough objection on the phone, or, people hanging up on you, that kind of stuff. Just like, piss off, Owen. No.
I think not as much as I
Yeah.
thought, not as much as I thought, but I think the people that you need to speak to, the people who you actually have to speak to, uh, they're actually a lot nicer. The people you
Yeah.
actually,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
people that can sort of make the decisions, they're actually a lot nicer to you than maybe the people that you don't necessarily need to speak to, but you haven't got any other
Yeah.
numbers, so you're giving that person a call. They're probably a bit tougher because they know they can't do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Makes sense, mate. All right. Mate, I've got to ask you about your old man as well.
Yeah.
I've got to ask you about your dad. So he for anyone who's listening, he actually gave me my first ever job at BMS. He hired me as a 22-year-old with no experience, straight out of uni. Took a shot, took a little bit of a punt on me. So I'm always I'm always appreciative of him. I learned a lot from him. He was he still is the big dog at BMS back in the UK. I learned a lot from him, in terms of, he taught me a lot about, just hard work and being disciplined, and, just keep coming back for more, and how to be accountable. I learned a lot of just mindset stuff from him in that initial year or so when I was working in the UK for BMS. I mean, firstly, how is he? And secondly, like, those kind of things that I mentioned there, do they resonate with you, kind of to the things that you've learned from him?
Yeah, I send his regards. By the way, he did actually send the regards before I did it. So he said hello. He's well. He's well. He's he's well. We've obviously I've got a little sister. I don't know if you know Amelia.
Yeah.
6 years old, and then we've had a little. Well, I haven't, but Charlotte's had a well, I hope I didn't have it. Otherwise, yeah. So we got a little brother. I've got a little brother now as well, who's coming up to be 1 year old as well. So
amazing, right?
I got big respects for him. He's running BMS tech sales, dealing with two kids as well on the sideline, and then obviously I'm around the house as well. So it's early nights, late nights. And then he's obviously dealing with his stuff. So he's well. But going to answer your question, it's always a funny topic when people ask me, because there's Dan the salesman, Dan the CEO of BMS Tech Sales, but then he's my dad. Of
course,
he's my dad. So there's sometimes it depends what mood I'm in, it depends what mood I'm in. Sometimes I'm like, I'd love, you're speaking to me, yeah, great, let me listen, how can I do this? Or, because obviously I'm in my room right now, he'll hear one of my calls, he's getting ready for the gym, or something, hear one of my calls, and he'll be like, oh, slow down a little bit, or, you said this, that sort of thing, and then I'm all ears to listen, right? But obviously if I'm not in a good mood or something, and he says to me, it's just a classic, like, oh, Dad, like, I'm tired for this. I don't, so it's trying to balance that he's my dad, but also he's a book full of knowledge,
Yeah. Did you look up to him as a role model, in terms of him? Because I definitely, especially when I first started, I learned a lot from him, like I said, and he was definitely a real early figure, mentor for me. Is that the same for you, I guess?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's what he's done, he always talks to me about, his stories before BMS, obviously he was in the army for 7 years. Then he left, and he was I believe, probably should know, but he was selling some computer printer software or some printers or whatever. And he, hearing his stories about, when he went somewhere and the person wasn't even a decision maker and he just wasted his time there, and hearing these stories that he's experienced it, I'm very lucky to have that in my role. As going back to my colleague, he's he doesn't have that sort of experience around him, or any of my other colleagues. He's lucky his wife works in the same cybersecurity industry, so he has there. But I'm very lucky to have, Dad, this guy's didn't accept my meeting after we had a good phone call. How can I, what can I do? What can persuade him to, should I call him?
Yeah,
Should
of
I
course.
email him? That sort of thing. So, yeah, he's very good.
Yeah, you've got to ask him when he's free to come on this podcast as well, by the way.
Yeah, that's such a very good idea. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Dad.
Get two generations of Carol on here. Mate, so what's next for you then? What's sort of in the future hold for you a little bit? Maybe in your role, your life in general.
Yeah, it's definitely sales. Veracode. It's sales. I think I've as much as it's tough, it's super rewarding. It's I'm only 21 now. 21.
Yeah.
As a BDR, I could hopefully, be at enterprise, AE in the next few years. 4 or 5 years. So yeah, definitely sort of whether that be Veracode or or a thing, it's definitely the next foreseeable future is at Veracode.
You found your lane, and I think I guess you sort of hear people who sort of bounce around careers and jobs, and they don't quite know what they're calling it. So I think a lot of people with sales, maybe you and I, just once you fell into it, and you're like, yeah, this is it. Like this is me.
it's like this is it's one of those ones where you're like, you wake up every day and you get told a no, and you're like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing? Like, what has this come to? But then you get a win, and you're like, yeah, this is it. Yeah, it's never it's never just like that. As it's always up, down, up, down, and I think that's where going into a BDR, starting off as a BDR, having that as your sales thing can put a lot of people off, but then as well at the same time, you don't have to go into an AE role after a BDR. You can customer success manager, you've got so many different things, solutions architect, it's a good way to get you into an organization. And that's one of the things that that I focused on when I came into Veracode is like, when you go into any new organization, you want to have meetings with everyone who is in different parts of the organization just to see, so I met like our global head of PR, just to see what their role is, see what they do. And then you start to build connections with everyone, and you have relationships with everyone. And then if you ever need help with anything, you've met that person already. And it's all about, you're not alone.
Very wise. It's very wise. You got to network hard. It's all, everything's who you know. And just networking in your own company, and then external as well. So make your mindset spot on. I love it. One final question from me. Just sort of, and this is, I've been asking a few people on this, and this is, you can take this whichever way you like. Professionally, outside of work, whatever. But one thing I'm pretty interested in is success, and like what success means to different people. So my final question to you, Owen Carroll, is what does success mean to you?
Success. That's a very, very, very good question. I love that question. What does success mean to me? I think you can sort of take two angles to it. Obviously successful, you could be, that could be, wealth, but I like to think, to me, success is, wealth in that way, but it's not success if you're not happy. That's where it comes down to being happy. Are you successful if you flip burgers at McDonald's? But if you really enjoy doing that and you love doing it and you can do that the best of your ability, then you're successful. You are successful. If you're happy doing that and you're happy with your life, you've completed it, you've successed it, but I think to some people,
won't be you, mate. You can't get a job there.
I failed miserably.
Sorry. No. Carry on.
Yeah, so I think and then I think actually one of the biggest things that I read actually recently, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Serena Williams said it or something like that. I read it somewhere. And it was like, success isn't defined by how many times you win. Success is defined by how you react when you fail. And I thought that was quite, if you fail,
Mic drop.
just, yeah, that's it. Thanks for having me, Joe. Appreciate it.
On that bombshell.
Yeah. And when I'm seeing that now, I've had a tough month at Veracode. Meetings maybe aren't going your way, but it's the determination you put in. It's determination, and you've got to set goals that make you more successful. You're successful. You can have your goal here, but you've got to set goals to things so you'll constantly feel like you're becoming more successful. So it's about being happy. Successful to me is about being happy.
Yeah, no, I actually definitely agree with that. Especially, I had a laugh about it, but the person flipping burgers at McDonald's, if they're happy, they're winning. If compared to say an MD or a CEO who makes millions, but fucking hates his life, then the burger flipper is winning. Mate, thanks so much for the chat, and really good to catch up with you, and sharing your journey and sharing what you've been up to the last few years. Sounds like you're doing really well. I'm absolutely buzzing for you. So keep up the good work, mate. Thanks again for coming on.
I've got one question. I've got one question.
Oh, go on.
I've got one question to end it. I thought I like this. Can I give a question for the next person that you do? Like one question is that all right? I saw it on
Stephen Bartlett.
That's why I saw it. I saw it because I've been listening to his thing, so I was like, that would be cool to ask. I'll be like, what got you through one of the toughest parts in your career? Like, what motivated you to get through the toughest parts of your career? That's
what moment, or like what
got you through that? If they don't want to go into it, they could just say like, what got you through that?
Okay,
what motivated you? If you want to, obviously. It was just obviously I heard it and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Actually,
it is a nice touch for his show, and his show's pretty good, I have to admit. So, mate, appreciate that as well. And thanks for coming on. Thanks for chatting. And I'll talk to you soon. Owen Carroll.
Cheers, Joe.
Cheers.